This conference will now be recorded.
Any problem? Tell me, I will start the class if you don't have any problem.
No problem, madam.
Okay, fine. So what did we talk up to, like the last week? What is the topic we have taken? Just what are the two topics we covered last week?
Man, Zoom thing. Not able to.
What?
Zoom thing.
June.
Zoom, madam. Zoom change, madam.
Okay. Meera.
నేనే మేడం అంటే
Okay, okay.
కనిపించట్లేదు మేడం.
మీకు కనబడుతుందా ఇప్పుడు? చేశాను, జూమ్ చేశా. కనబడుతుందా?
కనిపిస్తుంది మేడం. కొంచెం చేయండి మేడం, కొంచెం.
ఓకే ఓకే. Is it class
This
on?
conference will now be recorded.
What was the last class on?
James
Lateritis
Takayasu.
and Takayasu. Okay. Did we discuss only those two we have discussed, right? And a brief introduction about vasculitis. Did I ask you any question? Yeah? Did I ask you any question? Did I ask you something like where the female to male ratio is 9:1? I remember asking like that. Do you remember too?
SLE, ma'am.
SLE is 9:1. You want to say that. What else did we discuss with 9:1 in the previous classes? So, okay, very good. It is SLE, Sjogren's and Takayasu arthritis. Those three are the ones which are having the ratio of 9:1. Someone told rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is in the ratio of 2 to 3:1. So, female to male ratio is more of with these three which I told you before. Okay. And I asked you also about something which is like around 50:1 male to female to male ratio. I mean, high female preponderance. That is with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Okay, that is the one I asked you. Did any one of you do your homework and get me any answer? No? Okay, fine. So last week we discussed about large vessel vasculitis. That is what you're telling us, giant cell and Takayasu arthritis. So now this week we'll go for medium vessel vasculitis. What is the medium vessel vasculitis? First of all, what is a medium vessel? As in the first few pictures, I showed you like what are the types of vessels involved and all. So where is that? Okay, medium vessel is something that that is a muscular artery. Any vessel which is supplying an organ or a particular system where it is entering into an organ. For example, hepatic artery which is going into the liver. These all are coming under medium vessels. Any inflammation of that vessel is called as medium vessel vasculitis. Okay. Any difficulty? Audio visual difficulties?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so in the picture you are able to see where the medium vessel is indicated, right? You are able to see the vessel which is comparatively larger in diameter and which is just before the arterioles, capillaries, pre-capillary arterial, pre-arterial capillaries and post capillary venules. Before that, whatever you're getting, that is a medium. This part is a medium vessel, medium vessel, and inflammation of that vessel is called as medium vessel vasculitis. Usually in the elderly, you can see it as polyarteritis nodosa, and in pediatric age group, you get the medium vessel vasculitis as Kawasaki disease. What is something typical about this is, when I discussed about the large vessel vasculitis, I told that it is a granulomatous process. It can be a granulomatous process, whereas medium vessel vasculitis is a non-granulomatous inflammatory pathology. So coming to the polyarteritis nodosa and Kawasaki disease, which are the medium-sized vessels involved. That is, the main visceral artery is involved. Whereas when I just in comparison with the other two categories, like giant cell and Takayusu, which are the large vessels involving the aorta and its direct branches, and the small vessel vasculitis are EGPA, GPA, and MPAN. These are the small vessel vasculitis, which are just capillaries or pre and post. They can involve venules also, but PAN per se involves the muscular arteries. It won't involve any capillaries or venules. That is the dictum. And it is a necrotizing inflammation of the medium-sized arteries, and it does not involve veins, as I already told you. And it doesn't have any glomerulonephritis or ANCAs. Like if you see an ANCA positivity, a P-ANCA positivity, then that should be small vessel vasculitis, that is MPAN, not PAN. Because in the earlier days, before we didn't have any specific categorization, then there were many cases whose pictures were confused between the PAN and MPAN. Both of them had a typical similar picture. So everyone were categorizing even PAN and MPAN to be one category. Later, after the development of more studies involving histopathological features involving different organs, then we knew this is the one which is involving the major blood vessels, that is the medium vessels, and that is the one with the smaller blood vessels. So that is how we came to know, we differentiated PAN from MPAN, because both of them are different per se, and treatment also slightly varies, and their response also varies. And coming to the etiology, usually like nearly 30% of patients of PAN are usually hepatitis B positivity. So 30% are hepatitis. You can classify PAN as those with hepatitis B positivity and those with hepatitis B negative individuals. So hepatitis B positivity is around 30%. Okay. And you can see even PAN in the cases of hepatitis C infection. So, but usually hepatitis C with cryoglobulinemia, hepatitis B with the PAN is the one which we usually do. See, hepatitis B infection PAN is medium vessel. Hepatitis C involved cryoglobulinemic vasculitis is small vessel involvement. So both are different, but PAN, which is medium vessel, usually caused by hepatitis B virus, can also be caused by hepatitis C infection. Okay. So the major ones which you have to remember is hepatitis B infection, which is around 30%, and non-hepatitis B. Hello. Any problem? Audio visual problems, anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So hepatitis B is 30%, whereas non-hepatitis B, that is around 70%, can be either because of hepatitis C infection or any other connective tissue disease or idiopathic. And there is one hematological malignancy where PAN can be seen, that is hairy cell leukemia, which is an important MCQ for your entrance. And coming to the clinical presentation, usually, as I told you, it is a medium vessel vasculitis. See, when the medium vessels are involved, what is going to happen? Wherever the vessel is involved, that area is going to get inflamed. When inflammation is there, initial stages, there will be edema. Finally, then it becomes stenosis, that particular area. If this continues for a prolonged time, the inflammation, the stenosed area is going to become aneurysm. That is what the final pathway of this PAN is. So, as I told you, the medium vessels are there for every particular organ. Either it may be for liver, kidney, GIT, everywhere the medium vessels are there. So all the medium vessels are involved in the similar pattern of getting inflammation, then having the edema, then stenosis, and finally there can be aneurysm also. So if it happens in different systems, different effects you are going to get. That is what all PAN is about. So as I told you initially, coming to the histopathology wise, or not histopathology wise, uh, initial stage, when I told you the inflammation is there. Whenever there is inflammation in the acute stages, neutrophils are the cells which are going to predominate in that area. So when you do histopathology examination, you get neutrophils in that area in the acute stages. Whereas in the subacute to chronic stages, you can have the mononuclear cells infiltrating that area. Okay. That is for histopathology as well as for our understanding of how the pathology is. So now coming to the clinical presentation, as I told you what the pathology is there in the particular disease, it involving the different organs. So different organs which are involved are, firstly when we talk about kidney, the medium vessel, that the vessel which is entering the artery which is carrying the blood to the kidneys, they are the ones which are involved. And because of that involvement, what is going to happen? Edema can occur, and then after edema, inflammation and stenosis. So what is happening, the blood supply to the kidney is decreasing. So what is going to happen? Renovascular hypertension is going to occur. How is renovascular hypertension going to occur? When the blood supply is decreasing. What is happening to renin-angiotensin and aldosterone system? It is stimulated. When it is stimulated, more amount of sodium water retention is occurring. Because of that, systemic hypertension is occurring. Okay, and it can also involve the interglobular arcade arteries. Everything can be involved because of PAN inside the kidney. So when it is involved, there also stenosis can be occur. Because of that, systemic hypertension can occur. But in the gradual long run, when the aneurysms occur at the last stage, the aneurysms can rupture and that can lead to hematuria. So usually when you examine a person with PAN and he having renal involvement, renal vasculature involvement, he can present with the hematuria or like RBCs in the urine. But you never see RBC CAS. If at all RBC CAS are there, that is usually because of the tubular involvement. Whenever the tubules are involved, that renal tubules are involved, then only the CAS can occur. When they are not involved, you won't see CAS. So that is how vascular hypertension is the one significant indicator of renal involvement in PAN. So coming to the next system, that is GIT involvement, because of the involvement of mesenteric vasculature, mesenteric artery, and they can initially go into a phase of edema, stenosis, causing bubble infarction, or in the later stages when aneurysm occur, it can rupture and it can cause intraperitoneal hemorrhage. So both of the condition can occur. First, initial abdominal pain can occur because of decreased blood supply because of stenosis. You can have mesenteric gangrene, bowel ischemia and gangrene can occur, or if the rupture of the aneurysm, you can have hemorrhage. Either of these two are seen in GIT. So the two systems in which are involved, you got an idea. And the other one, hepatic liver involvement can also occur with the inflammation of the hepatic artery. That can also lead to abdominal pain in consecutive to the ischemia. And then if you want to see the next organ which is involved, there can be very rarely. Usually the common system involved is, according to Harrison, it says like musculoskeletal system constitutes for the 64% involvement of the PAN features, and 60% is the involvement of the renal system. and peripheral nervous system is accounting for around 54, and CNS is accounting for like around 24 percentage, around 21 percentage. So if you want to consider nervous system, which consists of peripheral nervous system as well as central nervous system, you can get up to 70% of involvement. So, but both of them are divided in Harrison, and they give it as like renal, which is 60%, and musculoskeletal to be 64. Peripheral nervous system, central nervous system are given differently, but if at all they are given in a single, if at all they are given in a like nervous system, which includes both, CNS can be the most common organ involvement or most common system involvement. Firstly we'll see, okay, coronary arteries also can be involved, because that they can have angina and MI, which is very rare, around 15%, around 15 to 20% around. When there is stenosis of that particular vessel, there can be angina or MI, myocardial infarction. When this, if it occurs as aneurysm and rupture, then they can have tamponade, but it is very rare. Pericarditis is also can also occur, and there can be some the next system, as I told you, is CNS. CNS involvement either can be nervous system involvement can be CNS and PNS. PNS is very common, which is around 54 percentage, and it can occur as mononeuritis multiplex, and usually the patient can present with foot drop or wrist drop, etc. can be there, but foot drop is more common compared to that of wrist drop. And that is the PNS, peripheral nervous system involvement. It is because of the ischemia of the medium vessels, like common peroneal nerve, etc. Ischemia of the vessel. Why is the ischemia occurring? Because of the involvement of vasa vasorum, causing the compromised blood supply to that particular nerve. Okay, that is to do with the PNS. CNS involvement can also be there, but it is comparatively less than that of PNS. Then cutaneous lesion. Usually the cutaneous vessels are also involved, and they can lead to vascular purpura, livedo reticularis. Livedo reticularis something is coming under the criteria for PAN also. There are few criteria which are to be met in order to call it as PAN. It is livedo reticularis, which is there in it, and also gangrene can be there. Peripheral gangrene and painful skin nodules are present. If you see in the pictures, first picture is showing something like a gangrene, dry gangrene in the first picture, and the second one is the picture of, they actually mixed up all the pictures. So you can have cutaneous ulcerations, even in the case of in presentation also, you can get a question like a person with a male patient who came with the complaints of purpura and non-healing ulcer, foot drop, etc. And with hematuria and now abdominal pain. What is your take on the case? Then you can say it is as a PAN, and because they can have non-healing ulcers. And if you see the terminal diagram, there can be livedo reticularis and vascular purpura. So like any other case, how do you want to work up for this case? So usually ESR, CRP are elevated in case of PAN. Now WBC is also elevated, leukocytosis can occur, and platelets are usually high. See, any case of vasculitis, platelets are high or thrombocytosis occurs usually. If at all you are seeing thrombocytopenia, then it means that it is having a poor prognosis. Usually SLE and other connective tissue disorders are where you tend to have thrombocytopenia, whereas in vasculitis you tend to have thrombocytosis. Okay. Apart from that, because of renal involvement or the blood involvement, anemia can be there, hematuria there, and proteinuria, it is not per se to do with the aneurysms and all. There can be because of compressional changes and hypertension, which can lead to proteinuria. And hypocomplementemia can be there, but it is not so significant. ANCA negative. If at all ANCA is positive, you go for the other diagnosis mostly, because only 95%, which is like major contributor, is ANCA negative, 95 to 98. Then you can have hepatitis B surface antigen positivity. As I told you, 30% of the patients of PAN are hepatitis B positive PAN, and 70% others, which can constitute for hepatitis C or hairy cell leukemia or other connective tissue disorders, or it can be idiopathic. Okay, so coming to the picture. See, what are you able to see in the picture? Brief idea. If you say me vessels are also, I'm okay with it. What is the thing you are able to see in the picture? Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting confused whether you are there or not, just to respond quickly. So what is this? You are able to see some vessels, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
This is this is an angiography showing the abdominal as well as renal system. If you see the blood vessels which are towards your uh, left extreme, see the blood vessels are narrowed or tapered in between. They are not continuous, or like they are segmented. Are you able to see
Yes, ma'am.
this one? Got it right? Now I enlarged. Are you able to see?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that stenosed or segmental narrowing, which you are able to see in this picture, that is typical of polyarteritis nodosa. As I told you, PAN is the one which is involving the medium vessels. It usually involves the medium vessels at the level of bifurcations. Okay, at the terminal level where the bifurcation is happening, that is where the blood vessels are involved. Okay. So that is to do with the first, you initially when you get the patient clinical and also testicular infarction is one thing which is very common in this patients, are very typical. So you get a case scenario like male patient, middle aged, who is having the symptom of wrist drop or fruit drop with the cutaneous manifestations of non-healing ulcer, along with the abdominal pain and hematuria, along with the testicular pain. These all are significant of polyarteritis nodosa, which you have to keep in mind. Okay, that is to do with the investigation. And coming to the treatment wise, and also did I miss? Yeah, these are the things. Coming to the, mostly I covered everything which are important for your entrance also. And next is your treatment. Usually treatment, what do you do whenever you find this kind of connective tissue cases? First you initially use theatal steroid, then taper them and go with the depending on the requirement, you go for the biologicals or DMARDs. So in the same way, you start with the steroids, and if the need of DMARDs is, which is often very required, is like you start them on cyclophosphamide depending on the condition. Dose and all, I'll tell you. So coming to the next primary vasculitis of medium vessels is Kawasaki disease. So what do you know about Kawasaki disease? It is usually seen in pediatric age group, usually between 1 to 5 years of age. If it is less than 1 year or more than 5 years of age, if Kawasaki occurs, it has very bad prognosis. And the etiology is still not known. And it presents as an acute febrile disease in a child. See, they occur as an onset of abrupt, very high grade fevers which is non-remitting for a period of 1 to 2 weeks, and it is associated with the painful cervical lymphadenopathy, bilateral conjunctival congestion, dryness, redness, and fissuring of the lips, strawberry tongue, exanthema of the trunk can occur, and redness of palms and toes, and there can be desquamation of the hands and feet. Okay, so this is a typical presentation of Kawasaki. See, they will give you a question like this only: abrupt onset with high grade fever, painful cervical lymph nodes, and red eyes with red tongue, with the desquamation or keratoderma blennergicum. That is how they give you the question of Kawasaki. See, most of the vasculitis, these have nothing to do with the investigation. Everything is depending on the clinical presentation or history. So you should be good at eliciting and identifying the clinical features of the particular patient. Okay, then you can diagnose this all very easily. So these are the things which I should be remembering to diagnose a case of Kawasaki. And the age group, as I told you, 1 to 5 years of age. See, yeah, if you see in this particular picture, the A picture shows that redness of eyes along with the erythematous inflammation on the skin. Facial region is involved in this case, and tongue is not shown. Probably it will be a very red in color. And the second one, which is showing the palms, which are of having maculopapular erythematous rash, which is very common in Kawasaki. After few days, there can be a state where there will be desquamation or peeling of the skin. That is typical. And if you see the third picture, it is erythematous inflammation involving the back. So something more about the pathophysiology or pathology. Sorry, pathology actually. It is also involving the medium vessel. As it is involving the medium vessel, its pathology is not so elucidly given. So initially, like that of pan, here also you can have medium vessel involvement, and you can have involvement of blood vessels. See, though it is not specific, Kawasaki disease can have anti-endothelial antibodies. So whenever there is blood vessels, the antibodies can involve the area where the blood vessels are there. So because of that, there can be the particular features. But for, as I say, for small vessel vasculitis, there is ANCA positivities. Like for GPA, there is CPA, C ANCA positivity. Like that, I can't say for that of Kawasaki, because Kawasaki is not having a particular specific one type of antibody. There are multiple antibodies, but which are not specific. A specific one is yet to be found by us. There are non-specific antibodies, because anti-endothelial antibody is not just in this case; it is in several other diseases also. Okay. Again, coming to the investigations, is like first, it is mainly whatever the clinical features I told you, that will be there. But anyways, inflammatory markers of PSR, CRP will be elevated. And coming to the treatment, you have to go with the supportive treatment only in uncomplicated cases. And this is more common to go for coronary artery aneurysms. Coronary artery aneurysm in a case of a child of 1 to 5 years age, it is Kawasaki disease. So what will be your treatment? It will be low dose aspirin. You start the patient with, and IV immunoglobulins are also given. If they ask you treatment of choice, it is IV immunoglobulin. IV immunoglobulins are very important in Kawasaki disease. Rest of the conditions where is like IV immunoglobulins given. At least one more condition you tell me where IV immunoglobulins given. Are you there? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Where are IV immunoglobulins given? One more, Kani. Sorry, you might not know. Okay, then. IV immunoglobulins can be given in many of the autoimmune disease where you think like autoantibodies are in excess and causing the crisis. It might be in myasthenia gravis or multiple sclerosis, etc. So in this case, what is the mechanism of action of IV immunoglobulins? There is decreased expression of adhesion molecules on the endothelial cells. As I told you, there are anti-endothelial antibodies. Because of IV immunoglobulins you give, they decrease the expression of adhesion molecules, and because of that, more of the antibodies are not attracted towards the site of endothelium, and they bind to the inflammatory cytokines. Uh, and they won't let them freely migrate and cause the symptoms of Kawasaki. What are the symptoms the patient is having? Inflammatory symptoms, and they decrease the number of activated T lymphocytes. These are the mechanisms of IV immunoglobulins. So that is to do with the IV immunoglobulin, which is the treatment of choice in case of Kawasaki disease. So that is with the medium vessel vasculitis. Now coming to small vessel vasculitis. Small vessel vasculitis is very big. I can give you a brief introduction only for today's class. Okay, first we'll see the case scenario, then come back here. Someone of you tell me the diagnosis of this case. I'll give you 5 minutes time. You just tell me the diagnosis. No need 5 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. Any takers?
Okay.
Takayasuwa. Anyone else?
Polyarthritis.
Very good. Polyarthritis nodosa. See, why are you able to say Takaisis was last class, so at least that you have to remember and you can tell it easily as PAN. See, as I told you, this is male predominant, male around 40 years. He complains of myalgia, arthralgia, fever. Musculoskeletal system is like 64% involvement, more common. Okay. And then coming to the sudden onset of severe hepatopulmonary system involvement, along with lower limb swelling and renal impairment. They didn't tell what the renal impairment is. There might be hematuria or anything else. And coming to chest pain, dyspnea on exertion. Why there can be chest pain? There can be involvement of coronary vessels also. Apart from that, I forgot to tell you about the renal lung involvement. See, I told you PAN is medium vessel vasculitis. So what is the medium vessel in case of pulmonary system? The medium vessel is the bronchial artery. The bronchial artery supplies from the initial from the tracheal bifurcation and the smaller vessels up to the level of uh, at the end to the end of conducting zone. Conducting zone is supplied by bronchial artery, whereas respiratory zone, that is the alveoli, is supplied by pulmonary vessels. Okay, so that is the difference. Conducting zone supplied by bronchial artery. Bronchial artery is a medium vessel, whereas the respiratory zone supplied by the pulmonary capillaries is a small vessel artery. So in case of PAN, which is a medium vessel vasculitis, bronchial artery is involved. So when bronchial artery is there involved, you can have the respiratory symptoms, but alveolar hemorrhage and all won't occur in case of PAN, because small vessel vasculitis is the one which can have alveolar hemorrhages, not the medium vessel. Medium vessel, bronchial vessel involvement can be there, only that. So next they can have abdominal pain, bleeding, bowel infarction, abdominal collection, etc. As I already told you, peripheral nervous system involvement in form of painful mononeuritis multiplex. And if you see the fingers, they are gangrenous. Dry gangrene is present. Depending on this, you can label the diagnosis as PAN. Okay. Now got it? Someone who told Takayasu. Now did you get the difference between Takayasu and PAN?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So what is with the Takayasu? Takayasu is a large vessel. So when it is involving the large vessel, aorta and its branches are involved. Here you are having the medium vessel involvement. So the difference is that. Coming to this, now tell me the diagnosis.
Kawasaki disease.
Kawasaki.
Very good. Why did you say it as Kawasaki? Because it is the classical picture of Kawasaki, like, you know, a child less than 5 years, arthritis, fever, conjunctival congestion, strawberry tongue, painful cervical lymph nodes, exanthem of trunk. These all are features of Kawasaki disease, which is typical. You don't need any investigation also. Just this clinical feature will tell you that it is Kawasaki. Okay, coming to the small vessel vasculitis, only I'll give you the intro. Next part we'll see in the next class. Small vessel vasculitis, it is to do with the smaller vessels. What does the smaller vessel mean? Smaller vessel is nothing but it is the smaller vessel is nothing but a capillary, a pre-capillary arteriole and post-capillary venule. That the small thing is coming under small vessel vasculitis. And the small vessel vasculitis are further divided into two types. They can either be because of immune complex mediated or granuloma formation or ANCA-associated vasculitis. Among the ANCA-associated vasculitis are EGPA, GPA, and MPAN, whereas immune complex associated vasculitis are cryogenic vasculitis, HSP, that is IgA vasculitis, hypocomplementic urticarial vasculitis, anti-C1q vasculitis. These are coming under immune complexes. And particularly, as I told you before, anti-associated vasculitis, EGPA, GPA, and MPAN, these three are quasi-immune. They doesn't have significant immune complexes. They're quasi-immune. That is one category. The other category where immune complexes are present in more number are these three: cryoglobulinic IgA vasculitis, hypocomplementic urticarial vasculitis. The other category is anti-GBM disease, where the antibodies are formed against the glomerular basement membrane. That is Goodpasture syndrome, etc. comes under this category. So that is the three varieties where you can see. And there can be drug-induced ANCA vasculitis also. Drug-induced are mostly with propionthiouracil, carbimazole, allopurinol, and levamisole adulterated cocaine also can cause small vessel ANCA-associated vasculitis like picture. Okay, so these are the categories of small vessel vasculitis, uh, which we will see in detail in the next class. Okay, any doubts? Any doubts? Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
So that is it for the today's class. I hope you understood. Any difference, you let me know. Is it okay for you today's class?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if any doubts, you contact me. That is it for today's class. We'll see you in the next class. Put your attendance in the chat box.
Sana.